Hello and welcome to Composer Technologies demo on Composer Notes for converting Lotus Notes applications to .NET. For those of you new to Composer Technologies, we are a US-based company that does application modernizations worldwide. The objective for today's demonstration is to show you how easy it can be to convert a Lotus Notes application into a .NET application with Composer Notes. We will first spend a few minutes on the capabilities and benefits of Composer Notes so you have some context going into the demo. We will then demo the conversion of a Lotus Notes application into .NET. The Composer Notes solution has been out for over 7 years, and conversions can be delivered as a service or the tool can be licensed with training and support. With Composer Notes, you can migrate complex Lotus Notes applications to an ASP.NET application. Much of the conversion is automated, but there are some items that are not converted automatically due to environmental differences between Lotus Notes and a 3-tier .NET architecture. As part of the tool, there's an analyzer utility which will flag these differences so the time and effort to complete the migration can be estimated. The generated application is a .NET application in C# and can be maintained and extended in Visual Studio. All of the source code is provided, so there are no runtime licensing dependencies. The solution does not convert Notes apps to SharePoint. Some Notes applications are well suited to SharePoint, like the Nifty 50 template-based applications and simple forms which capture data. However, many customers have found that their most complex Notes applications are not a good fit in SharePoint. These include Notes applications that have large data volumes, a lot of functionality coded in Formula or Lotus script, agents, frame sets, hides when functionality, things like that make it a much better fit in ASP.NET. Composer Notes also does not convert applications that are already web-based. Often the customer still has a Notes client version that can be migrated though. Any JavaScript in the app also has to be rewritten. We just went through the capabilities of the solution at a high level, but let's take a moment to outline the key benefits of Composer Notes. These are some of the most common points customers say distinguish it from other alternatives. The solution converts the user interface, business logic, the Notes database, document data, and the ACL security. This includes providing much of the underlying capabilities that the Lotus Notes framework provided. Customers have provided feedback that this saves them anywhere from 3x to 5x reduction in time over their rewrite estimates. In addition to producing clean .NET code, the file structure of the components and objects are organized much as they were in Lotus Notes. This provides a reference point that both the original Notes developers and the .NET developers can follow. For Lotus Notes developers, this also eases the learning curve into .NET. Customers also emphasize the benefit of maintaining the look, feel, and navigation for the initial conversion. Reproducing all of the functionality of the application is not enough. It needs to behave similarly over in the new environment in order to minimize the impact on the end users and avoid retraining. Avoiding retraining can be a significant cost savings. Customers have also found it's much more straightforward to test in this like-for-like conversion to make sure all of the functionality and behavior is present. User testing in the new application is more difficult if you cannot compare it directly with the original Forms application in that like-for-like manner. With that background, let's go ahead and go into the demonstration. And here's what you'll see in the demo. We will convert a Lotus Notes application to an ASP.NET app. And it's not as large as some customer applications, but it has components and business logic that you see in most complex Lotus apps. If we ran this through our analyzer utility, it would come up as an intermediate complexity Notes app. Now, this is a full conversion of the user interface, business logic, Notes database, document data, and the ACL security. After converting the application, we'll deploy it so you can see the same functionality and navigation of the Notes client app in a browser. And you can see the impact how the impact to the end users is minimized. And we'll also look at some of the converted code in Visual Studio so you can see how the project hierarchy and naming of the components is maintained. And with that, what I'm going to do is just switch over to the demo environment so that we can start the demo. So what we'll do first is actually take a look at the Notes application that we're going to convert so you can see how it behaves and the look and feel of what we're going to convert. And what we're using here is the Notes application that we use for customer training. And it's basically a journal entry related type of application. And you can see it has all the typical types of things that you see in a Notes application. You've got the different views there on the left-hand side. We can go and look at some of these views so you can see the different things you expect to see, like the twisties, and you can expand those. We can even go into a different view and take a look at some of these entries as well. And you see the icons and the images. And then we'll go ahead and go into a journal entry here. And again, you can see there's tabs. You can see there's document data attached to this as well. And as you navigate through this, the data changes dynamically. So all of these things of what you would expect to see in a Notes application. And that's pretty much the application that we're going to convert. So with that, we'll go ahead and close out the app, and we'll bring up Visual Studio here to do a conversion. Now, one of the nice things about the conversion is that this is actually done as a web template, or the project is a Visual Studio project template to work from. So we'll go ahead and select the Composer website there. And what you see now is kind of the wizard-driven interface for the Composer tool now. And you can see that there are a lot of settings that you can set on this. We have all the default settings set here, but you can see you can import data. You can specify whether or not to bring in the OLE embedded objects, a lot of different settings. We're just going to go ahead and leave it at the default settings and go ahead and move through the wizard here. You have to define the target database. We're going to go ahead and convert this into a SQL Server database. Now, there is an option to convert this to Oracle as well, although there are some limitations to that. One of the things I do want to point out here is that in the SQL Server target, you can see that we actually have full text index support. All right, now we'll go ahead and test the connection really quick just to make sure that we have it. It was successful, so we'll go ahead and click on Finish. And what you'll notice now is if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see the Visual Studio status bar, and you'll see that it's going through and doing the conversion. If you look on the right-hand side, you'll see how as it's converting all of these elements into C#, the folders, the project folder is expanding as it adds all of these items. Now, one of the things I want to point out is this project hierarchy on the right-hand side. And what you can see is that it does create all of those elements for you to follow in a similar fashion to how you would as in the Notes Designer. You can see that there's folders for agents, for the forms, the libraries, things like that. One thing you'll notice is that the user interface has been separated from the forms. You also see this message that popped up as talking about the to-do comments. And basically what that does is when it generates all of these items, it will tell you if there are some things that need to be looked at in the conversion when you go to compile it. Now, in some cases, those are actual compilation issues that you have to resolve. In other cases, they're not necessarily compilation issues, but they're things that need to be validated or verified before compiling. Now, since this is our training database, we actually have one item to be resolved, one compilation issue as an exercise. And so you'll see that when we go to compile this. So we're going to go build the website. This is what we do if we're going to actually compile and try to deploy it. And when we do this, we should see the compilation error come up. And you see in the output folder down below all of these things. And what we're doing when we address the compilation issue, it's actually very straightforward. In this case, it's a naming issue. And for those notes developers out there, you'll recognize it. It's just an ambiguous reference for the naming. And so what we'll do is make a full path reference to the name so that this will compile. So once we make that correction, we'll go ahead and try and deploy this again. And once we do that, we'll bring up the app so we can show you what the converted app looks like and make sure that it has that similar look and feel we were talking about. As you can see, it has a similar look and feel already. One difference I want to point out is that on the left-hand side, when you look at those different views, they don't have the little icons over there next to them. So there are some differences. We talk about this being a like-for-like in behavior, and it is a like-for-like in the look and feel as much as possible, but there are some differences. Those icons are one of them, but these are all things that can also be adjusted post-migration to make it even more similar if need be. And then we'll go ahead and expand on some of these so we can show you some of the examples of what was brought over. You can see the twisties are brought over when we go into some of the different views, which is something that you had on a Notes client, but now we're doing it within a browser. You can also see that we have some of those little icons or images over there as well. And then if we go back, we'll actually open one of these journal entries so that we can show you more examples of business logic that's brought over. You can see as you go between the tabs some of the data changing, and we can also double click. One of the you can see the document data is brought over as well. You see that attachment there. And then one of the functionalities in a Notes client app is you can double click and go into edit mode, and that business logic is brought over as well. So you can see we double clicked on this tab and we went into edit mode where you can work with this rich text field and the attachment. The other nice thing you'll see there, that's an example of a drop-down menu, and you can see that data is dynamically brought into those drop-down menus. It's another example of the extent of the business logic that's brought over. And one of the things I want to point out as well is one thing you don't see at the top is the action menu bar, and that's been brought in as a context menu bar for the Notes app. So you can see now things like going to the agents and those types of things are available as a context menu bar. The other thing that was shown there was that you can export a view into a spreadsheet or CSV. We also have done some integration in with Office automation. So depending on the level of Office automation integration that you're looking for, we have ways to do that already. so you have the level of office automation that you expected that you had on the Notes side. And that's, as you can see, it's a very similar look and feel. In fact, I think we could even bring up the Notes version here next to it, just so you can see just how similar they look. So on the right-hand side is the ASP.NET or browser-based version, and on the left-hand side is the Notes version. And again, you see just how similar those are in behavior. And this, again, this shows you just how minimal the impact would be to the end users. No retraining would be necessary on the application, and the testing would be very straightforward as well. So that's pretty much a deployed app. So why don't we go ahead and go in Visual Studio for a minute and show you an example of some code. So all of this is C# code, and what I thought we'd do is spend just a minute in the form that we've been navigating through on both the Notes side and in the ASP.NET side, and show you some examples of the code that's brought over. And I'm going to look for some Lotus script here first that was converted, and I'll highlight it. And I just want to show you how similar the Lotus script, this is C# code, but it looks very similar to the Lotus script logic that it was over on the Notes side before it was migrated over. And you'll see that even the naming conventions of those functions is maintained within, as much as it can be, within the requirements of naming conventions in C# and .NET. Also, I want to find an example of a formula logic, because I want to show you an example here of what we call our foundation classes, which is part of that framework I mentioned. So we provide these foundation classes that do a lot of the things that the low-level things that the Lotus Notes framework did on the Notes side, except it's all in C#, and that's included in here as well. Again, you get the source code to that as part of the conversion tool or as part of the conversion service without any runtime license fee. And the other thing to point out on that as well is on that formula language is that these foundation classes are added in there, but the actual customer's code is where, as much as possible, a one-to-one conversion. Now, that's just the amount I wanted to show you on the code. The other areas that I want to touch on that we mentioned in the migration is the security and the database. And so we won't go into those tools, but I did want to make sure that you knew that there's actually some utilities for managing the migration of the security. There's the ACL manager, which will bring over the roles, and it supports all of the access levels that were on the Notes side. And then in addition to that, there's the names resolver, which helps with looking at all of the names that have been set up in your ACL security and mapping that over to what's been already done in your Active Directory or whatever security provider you're using on that side, as well as for a data import, we have a utility called the data pump, so that once your migration and your deployment is complete, you want to be able to refresh all of that document data into your production environment. And so we have the data pump or data importer to assist with that as well. So very comprehensive migration solution for taking complex Notes applications over to ASP.NET. That's pretty much it for the demo. So what we did was we went over the capabilities and the benefits of the application of the Composer Notes solution, And then we went into a demo where we brought up the Notes app to convert, walked you through the conversion, and then went ahead and looked at the converted app so that you could see how the end user impact is minimized in terms of creating the similar look and feel and behavior, as well as just minimizing the risks of user testing with that similar look and feel. And then we went into some of the code so you could see how the project hierarchy is maintained for being able to navigate through there, and how the naming conventions are kept there as similar as possible. So we want to thank you for your interest in the demo, and have a good day.